All right, so today I want to talk about mirror reading signals and how they differ from causal chains. And if you don't know what causal chains are, be sure to check out my previous video on reconstructing the missing context of the Bible. But today I'm just going to try to answer this question: why mirror a statement if there is no supporting causal chain? Because sometimes I do mirror a statement even if there seems to be little evidence that I should do so. So I want to take a look at, well, why do I do that? And I'm going to take a look at two scholars who mirror read in their methodologies. I'm not going to go into detail on these. If you want to check out my reviews on their articles, I will post them. Links in the description for those. But Barclay has a methodology, and then Gupta, he builds off of Barclay's methodology and then gears it more towards moral issues. Now, both of these they both mirror read primarily in terms of epistles or letters, whereas I am mirror reading primarily for narratives, or have mirror read for narratives so far. But I still think there's some value in a few of these for narratives, and so I will go through those in detail. All right, so the first one is type of utterance. So I've found that an assertion or a denial is a strong signal that the statement should be mirror read. Again, these signals are not great evidence in and of themselves, but I found in the past that they strongly correlate with strong causal chains. And so, as I'm mirror reading, even if I don't have a strong causal chain, I'm more apt to mirror the statement if it adheres to one of these criteria here. So the first one is type of utterance. Second one is frequency. How many times does it make that assertion? Variety. How many different ways does it try to say that? And then I've added my own here, which is narrative necessity. And that's looking at, if you took the statement out of the narrative, does it really have an impact on? Does it have an impact on the story? Does it have an impact on the narrative? And so if it doesn't have an impact, then why is it there? And my answer to that is it's there in order to respond to an opposing narrative. So that's one of the criteria that I use as well. Again, these signals aren't great evidence, but since they've so strongly correlated with causal chains in the past, I tend to give them a lot of respect. All right, so now I want to revisit a question that the Amateur Exegete asked me quite a while ago, and just getting around to finally answering this. But I'm just going to play a little clip from this conversation. Now, the context of this, I had just released my series on the Northern Book of Judges, and so that's where he's pulling this question from primarily.
I did not think of this question, but in some of your notes, and I think you even talked about this in the podcast, some of the narratives have this underlying theme, like the counter narrative has this underlying theme that Yahweh is not Israel's God. Mm-hmm. And this comes up quite a bit. Just briefly, where are you seeing that the counter narrative is saying, oh, on top of everything else, well, Yahweh's it's not the God of Israel. How does that come into play? Like, where are you getting these clues from?
Well, a lot of times it's just mirroring a statement where it says that Yahweh is the God of Israel. And so if you just mirror that, then it's God is not.
But how do you know that's really part of the counter narrative? How do you know with any kind of degree of certainty?
It's I guess I haven't thought about that. I'd want to say that there's not a lot of text addressing that issue directly. Yeah. So you are correct in that. But I'd have to think about it. I would want to say that the larger issue, the other issues, does somehow play into that but I guess I'd have to think about that more.
All right, so let's take a look at that. The statement in question here is Yahweh is not the Elohim of Israel. So the biblical text says that Yahweh is the Elohim of Israel. So the type of utterance, it's an assertion. So that's one signal. Frequency, it doesn't, only occurs once really in the Northern Book of Judges that I used, but it appears 25 times in the Book of Judges. And for that and some other reasons as well, I think that perhaps the source criticism that I used as the basis of my mirror reading for the Northern Books of Judges was off. I'm doing my own source criticism now, so hopefully that won't be an issue in the future. In variety, it does. There's a lot of text that would support this claim here, even though it doesn't say it directly. And then narrative necessity. If the original reader already knew that Yahweh was Elohim of Israel, then why say it? And my answer to that is that it serves a function. It serves a function to counter the opposing narrative that the biblical author was interacting with. So in terms of frequency, there are about 38 instances in the Northern Book of Judges. More so if the source criticism that I use is wrong. And so here are some of the statements, and then here's the direct one: the Lord, or Yahweh, the God of Israel. And so that really, even though I don't have a causal chain, it really jumps off the page at me. It's like a blinking red light. It's such a blatant assertion that it really draws me to mirror it. And these signals also help me to figure out, when I first start mirror reading a book of the Bible, like what statements do I start with? Which do I mirror read every statement and see what works out? Just throw everything against the wall and see what sticks. And but these signals will help me zero on the things that should be mirror read first, and then kind of build off from there. Again, here's some more statement. These statements could be used to support that mirror reading. Not necessarily. Again, like I said before, these signals aren't great evidence, but the effect they've had in the past, I've come to respect those signals. Okay, and then I also talked about this in the last video as well, so check it out if you haven't listened to it. But when I say that Yahweh was not the Elohim of Israel, Israel in that case is not referring to north and south. It's referring to northern Israel as opposed to southern Judah. And so the whole catalyst for this biblical author to try to combine the Elohim of northern Israel and the Yahweh of southern Israel was the influx of northern Israelite refugees into southern Judah. And he's faced with the decision to integrate both northern traditions and southern traditions to try to combine this new population that has migrated into southern Judah. All right, so like I said in the podcast clip there, I think that's the larger issue that I think the mirror reading tied into. I didn't know that at the time. Actually, I think this influx of northern Israelite refugees into the south was a catalyst for quite a bit of the Old Testament. So, and that comes from, it was really discovered during my mirror reading of the book of Amos. All right, so I hope that gives you a little more insight to my to my mirror reading. If you want to learn more about my mirror reading and my work, be sure to check out my website, which is mirrorreading.com.